Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight, the National Security Minister's comments on a gleeful response to a new murder record being called insensitive. The mother of a murdered woman talks about her struggle to forgive her daughter's killers. A former minister defends the F&M's questioning of the LOI matter, how you can become a certified grill master. Plus, as always, we count down the top quotes and news this week. I'm Paige McCartney. We've got those stories and more straight ahead on MB12 Weekend. Welcome once again to MB12. Democratic National Alliance leader Branwell McCartney calling comments made earlier this week by the Minister of National Security that some appear to be gleeful about the new murder record insensitive, and demanding that the minister, who he called out of touch, resign immediately. On Wednesday, Dr. Nottage said in an NB12 interview that he was surprised at the glee that some elements have expressed over the fact that there has been an increase in the number of murders beyond the record. McCartney, whose party released a video on the new murder record and crime the day following the new record, said he took the comments to be directed toward him and added that he's the last person who would be gleeful about murders.
I think the Minister of National Security needs to resign ASAP. When he speaks about persons being gleeful, well, I was one of those persons, being the head of this political party, that came out and spoke about the crime problem and spoke about the ways in which we can fix this crime problem. Certainly, we in the DNA, and then more particularly, I was not gleeful. I'm one of the last persons to be gleeful about murders in this country in light of my brother's murder just 2 years ago. My heart aches for persons who are families that are going through this travesty, and for the victim.
McCartney said the PLP can't throw about murder figures prior to an election and then get offended when a record is set after it comes to office. He's referring to those infamous billboards the PLP erected on heavily trafficked roads leading up to the 2012 general election. Nottage had also said the number of murders being referred to as a record is unthinkable.
Now, this particular minister is saying we should not be using the word, and as a matter of fact, he lambasted the media and said that y'all are using this as well and saying it's a record and we should not be using the word record. Well, it is a record, but it's something that they use as well.
McCartney said he was also taken aback by Tourism Minister Obi Wilcham's suggestion that citizens start marching to show their dissatisfaction with crime, and that luckily it wasn't affecting the tourism product.
I was very concerned as well to hear another minister in the government talk about the fact that we need to start marching. Well, we could march all day and all night, but if the government is not willing to have the political will to deal with the crime problem, nothing is going to happen. The only marching this government ought to be concerned about is them marching themselves out of the House of Assembly and out of running this country anymore. The minister also alluded to the fact that the crime rate is not affecting us internationally. This is Minister of Tourism. Well, he must have not heard about the reports issued by the United States on about three occasions for this year, Britain and Canada.
The DNA leader said Bahamians are paralyzed by fear, and it's the government's job to ensure Bahamians are safe, Prime Minister Perry Christie vowed on Friday that government will do more to lower the crime rate, considering policies that may impact freedom of movement. Well, it's a tough pill to swallow, watching your daughter die in your arms, but it's even harder when it's the result of a senseless act of violence. And it's what one mother had to go through in late May when her daughter was shot to the head. Now she's telling her story of forgiveness and how it's allowed her to be at peace with the man she believes murdered her daughter. Kyle Joaquin reports.
Because I had no idea what I was saying or what I was doing. You know, all I know is I held her head up because the blood was coming out so much out of her mouth. You know, I didn't want it to choke her, and it was all God.
Lavita Thurston told us about her daughter's last few minutes of life. Holding her in her arms, she said all she could do was direct her to pray. And having experienced a parent's worst nightmare, she said she has forgiven her daughter's killer, but she wishes others would find a way to do the same.
I forgave him, and I tell him he have to talk to God himself. Christ forgave me. I'm not perfect. So why can't I forgive my brother or my sister? That's our problem. We don't want to forgive. We don't want to talk.
Her daughter, Georgette Ramming, was killed on the evening of May 26 when she was shot in the head while standing on the porch of her Blue Hill Road home. She was the 61st murder victim for the year. The mother of 6 says while everyone has a decision of their own to make, parents too should take some sort of responsibility.
All these persons that going around hurting persons, even female. How did we get to this? You never see here no female being killed. And back in the day, you never saw hardly hear all this murders happening. Very rare. It's because us as parents, we were first bruised. We were first hurt. So we don't know how to deal with our kids.
The mother said she sometimes feels as though she failed her daughter. She said while raising her children, she had no idea that Georgette had been molested and didn't notice she was acting out as a result.
When she would have lashed out, I would punish her according to what she did. You understand? So if she was being rude, I would beat her. And I didn't know at first that she was crying out. So I added to her injury. Nobody's gonna come out and say, I was molested. Even being a woman, it's hard for you to come out and say, I was raped. So judge less a child. So we add to our children's injury. We don't know what people do to them, verbal abuse. We don't know what's going on in the home. But yet, when these children lash out, we as parents turn around and want to get mad.
The country, Ramming said, seems to have taken a turn for the worst, and she believes it's because of people's mindset.
Whether your child do my child something, whoever is wrong, whatever the case may be, let us even encourage one another by going down to the court. You understand? If that boy mother who's charged for my child asks me to come to prayer meeting with her and pray for her child, I would do so. My child is dead.
The family, she says, has begun their healing process, and every day they talk about Georgette. Reporting for NB12 Weekend, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Police are looking for 2 men behind the country's latest murder that took place on Saturday on Jacaranda Street in Pinewood Gardens. Acting officer in charge of the Central Detective Unit, Clayton Fernandez, says the victim, a man believed to be in his early 20s, was shot to death just outside his home.
He was lying in the driveway of his residence. The only information we have at this time, and we continue to appeal to members of the public to assist, that shortly thereafter, 3 p.m., a vehicle, a gray type vehicle, make and model unknown at this time, pulled up. 2 men exited the vehicle armed with handguns and fired several shots, which struck the individual, and he died here on scene.
Police are asking anyone who may have information that can help in their investigations to please contact them. Fernandez also made this appeal.
Very much so. As you can see, we were moving from one scene to the other. And as the Prime Minister said, and I totally agree, and the Commissioner always say, that we have to come together as the community and hold hands and try to bring some closure to this vexing problem that we are having in the community. Persons know who are doing these and committing these offenses. They need to come forward and assist the police in trying to bring closure to these matters. We are losing our young men on both sides of the currents.
Well, former Minister of State within the Ministry of Energy and the Environment, Fenton Nemore, is demanding government reveal whether it granted any concessions to international investors seeking approval for a proposed waste-to-energy project in the Bahamas. Nemore told MB12 he's very concerned by the possible connection between Stellar Energy and FAB or FAB Portfolio Management, two entities seeking investors for waste-to-energy facilities in the Bahamas, both of which are headed by Fabrizio Zanaboni. Zanaboni serves as principal and majority shareholder for Stellar Energy, while his LinkedIn profile indicates that he served as CEO of FPM since 2008.
They are also advertising that this project is not a $650 million project. They are advertising and seeking funding for a $1.4 billion project. Now, my question is, where is this extra $750 million going? And into whose pocket is it going to? The Bahamian people ought to know. This is not a $650 million project as being sold to them.
Although Stellar Energy has been vocal in pushing for a $650 million waste-to-energy facility at the New Providence landfill, Nemore questioned why FPM was seeking $1.4 billion in financing on its website for what Nemore suggested was ostensibly the same project.
In this project, I would let the Bahamian people know now that it is being advertised on the international scene as a 70 megawatt plant. But we in the Bahamas, the government knows that the facility could only produce 20 megawatts. Now, why are they doing this?
Earlier this week, Stellar Energy Chief Operating Officer J.P. Mickelson criticized the F&M's renewed inquiries into the letter of intent matter that cost former Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works, Renwood Wells, his job. Nemore said, as Bahamians, the F&M has every right to inquire about how public funds are being dispersed.
Now, I find it shocking that 3 foreign-born men could come into the Bahamas and say to myself, Fenton Nemore, who was born in Steventon, Exuma, the home of Pompeii, and can say to Hubert Alexander Minnis from Bain Town that we should not speak on the LOI issue. I'm further shocked that these 3 gentlemen who are foreign-born can say to a former cabinet minister and to the current leader of the Queen's Royal Opposition that they should not talk about any issue related to the government.
When contacted, Mickelson stated that he had no knowledge of any possible concessions granted to the waste-to-energy project or connections between the 2 proposed projects, insisting that Stellar Energy